Hey, everybody, there's a couple of people we need to thank for supporting us on Patreon this month.
Yeah, we got to thank you guys. Thank you.
Daniel Fuentes,
Lucas Sink,
Dan Snow,
Jason Kelly,
Andrew Richardson,
Kevin Kleinrock,
The 12 Bench,
Jeffrey Risher,
Brett Macris,
W. Blaine,
Michael Sturgeon,
Weens234,
Dennis Scott,
Curtis LaRock,
Hugo Sanchez,
Trevor Matthew,
Deman Ryan,
Mitchell.
Go to patreon.com/comic book club. We have a bunch of cool swag and bonuses for you guys. And thank you guys who are supporting the show so much. We cannot
seriously.
tell you how much it means.
You guys are rock stars, and we couldn't do it without you.
All right, and enjoy the live show.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out to Comic Book Club Live. Please give it up for your hosts, Alex and Pete.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I am Pete.
And that's our man of the booth, Boothman Prime.
Boothman Prime.
Jazzy light work. I
Yeah,
like this. It's like coming out to
funky.
a carnival a little bit. Speaking about carnivals, a week until San Diego Comic-Con. Are you freaking out?
Oh,
Pete?
man, I am
Are you
freaking out.
You are freaking out? We're not going.
Yeah, we're
We
not
won't
going.
be there.
Totally not going to go.
No, we won't be there. Is anybody in the crowd and me going to San Diego?
San Diego,
Comic-Con?
look at these
All
people in
right.
the front going.
Are you guys freaking out? No.
No, very
Everybody's
chill. Very
about it.
chill about it, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, she's like, we go every year.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
No big deal.
We go to the zoo, we check out the zoo, then we go to the Comic-Con, then we go to the zoo again. It's all good.
Big zoo is very important to hit
Yeah,
when you're
you
in
got to
San
do
Diego.
one day at the Comic-Con, one day at the zoo, Comic-Con zoo, Comic-Con zoo. It's a good zoo.
Isn't that good?
Yeah,
Go 3 times?
right? It's the best zoo in the country, confirmed by, what's your name, sir?
Gregory, but I'm not going to.
Oh, Gregory, but he's not going.
Gregory's never been. He just thinks it's the best zoo.
Our zoo expert.
Yeah, Gregory.
Exactly. Yeah, you're a pundit. You're a zoo pundit is what you are. We do actually have 2 experts backstage right now. I'm
do.
very excited about the guests we have on the show.
You should be.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
They are the co-creators, the storytellers behind the new book, Brooklyn Blood. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Levitz and Tim Hamilton!
Welcome to the show,
Come on out.
guys.
All right.
Welcome to the show. Have a
Hello.
seat.
Here, please.
Have a microphone. Welcome.
Come on, sit down
Welcome.
over here.
Yes. Thank you,
Right.
guys. Thank you.
That's exciting. Guys, I'm very excited to chat about this book. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Sorry about the bright lights. We had flashing lights before, but we can put those back on if you want, like, the total strobe effect.
I think this will be enough to melt us before the evening's
All right,
over.
cool.
That's fine.
We'll slowly turn them up over the show until it gets hotter and hotter.
Excellent.
So this is Brooklyn Blood that is coming out officially on July 18th. Is that right?
July 18th in the comic shops, and I think July 31st in some of your better bookstores.
Nice.
All right.
So, but it's actually technically been out for a little while because you guys serialized it in Dark Horse Presents, right?
Right.
Okay, so how did the book come together? How did you guys, who pitched the idea first? Who put you guys together? How did it come about?
I guess I get to start that because I started the process. Mike Richardson has been hawking me to write something for him since we became friends decades ago. While I was at the desk at DC, that wasn't a practical thing to do. Mm-hmm. When I got up from the desk, he said, "Okay, now do something. I'll even pay you."
Wow, he's begging you and paying you. It seems like,
It's a radical proposition.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's how publishers are supposed to behave, actually,
Okay. All right.
in the process. But what do I know? Okay, so I can do anything, right? Particularly with the idea was to do it for Dark Horse Presents, and in an anthology, you pretty much can do anything. No one's going to read it anyway.
Hey, what?
So one of the things that I've loved reading my whole life is detective stories, police procedurals. Let me see about doing something like that. Be the first time in 40 years I was doing something for an indie. So let me do something that is very different from the superhero work that I've spent most of my career doing. Came up with the basic concept for Brooklyn Blood. Mike and his editors said, okay, you have an artist in mind? And I said, no. Most of the artists I know are somewhere between old and dead.
Oh, wow.
So they said, well, try and find an artist. So I started asking friends and spoke to a good buddy, Christine Norrie, who's an Eisner nominee of years back herself as an artist. And she said, there's this guy, Tim Hamilton, and he's actually in Brooklyn, and he's, based on what you're telling me the story is, he'd be really cool for it.
And I needed some work.
Desperation's always good.
Sure. Well, so how did you find out about
Always
it? How did you get, at that point, get looped into
just
the
an
project?
email from Paul. And I do other work, so doing it in Dark Horse Presents was ideal because I did 8 pages a month.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay. So when you guys were tackling it, though, did you... Well, actually, we should take a step back before we get really deep into the process. What's the idea of the book for those who haven't read the story yet? What's the pitch?
The story is basically a police procedural with supernatural or Lovecraftian overtones. Many of the worst disasters in the sense of largest death tolls in New York City history happened within about 1.5 miles of each other in Brooklyn. Just a weird shit coincidence. Yeah. And that really became the hook of saying maybe those elements can tie together to be the basis for a mystery as we start exploring those sites in modern day and kind of the ghosts and the blood trail that survives there.
And Paul, you didn't know about Fort Greene Monument?
I had not remembered about Fort Greene Monument, which wasn't where those guys died, but certainly where an awful lot of them are buried, and there's a lot of ghosts there. That was one of your contributions.
That's my contribution to
Nice job.
story.
There were a few others.
Yeah, you did a little bit of the art, most of the art, I think.
Oh yeah, all the art,
Yeah,
except the lettering.
yeah. So that was part of the book. I mean, this is getting a little sidetracked, but my favorite thing about the book, my favorite thing about the story, because I live in Brooklyn, is just seeing all the different places that you capture so well in there. So what collaboratively was that like? How much was in the script? How much was in the art? How much was going out and doing the research?
Oh, I just rode around and took pictures or Googled things that were no longer in existence, such as the Battle of... what was the battle with the stone house?
Battle of Long Island.
Of Long Island. I mean, there's one painting of it, I think. But other than that, I do a lot of photo reference.
Yeah,
Nice.
You were riding your bike all over that section of Brooklyn doing
I do
some of
that
that stuff,
which
I thought was
every
very
other
cool.
day.
When
that
you
is
were
cool.
tackling the script, though, did you think about that geography at all? Did you plan that in terms
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
the script was very much anchored in the places. I know that section of Brooklyn fairly well. I grew up in Brooklyn, not that area, but I had occasion to be there over the years for friends and things like that. And a couple of things like Tim just mentioned, the old stone house. I didn't know about that from growing up there, and I hadn't run across that in my research. But around the time I was starting the series, I had a lunch date with a writer friend in that neighborhood and was hanging out, and they're like, oh, this is cute. This is a weird thing. We can use this.
And it works really well. I mean, again, I think I'm biased because I live there, but it's fun to just see, oh, cool, I know you can walk into the park that way and then find that thing in the park.
Where do you live, by the way?
6th Avenue and 2nd Street in Park Slope.
Okay.
I just doxed myself. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. It was not a good
I
idea.
live right by the old stone house, so I'm
right.
very familiar with that and a bunch of other places. Don't come visit me. You guys can come by. It's fine. You guys are cool. People listening to it at home, you're not cool.
I'm sorry, people listening at home. I disagree. I think you are cool.
Aw, thank you.
So what's your address then?
I'm in Bed-Stuy. I don't get a lot of visitors in Bed-Stuy.
But you see, this is part of it. I grew up in Brooklyn when Brooklyn was definitively not cool.
Yeah.
We worked really hard to get the hell out of Brooklyn.
Wow.
As my daughter pointed out when she moved there after college, and we said, we worked so hard to get out, why are you going back? And she said, it's not the same place.
Yeah.
Brooklyn's an aspirational place now for a lot of people who will never get to live there. never be able to afford it because they won't have robbed enough banks.
Right.
So there's a lot of interest in it. It's got a lot of rich history. And I think any time you read a story that is really rooted in a place that takes you into it, if you have any real interest in that place, it brings you into it much more deeply.
Yeah.
I was in London about a week ago. I grew up on Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers' mystery stories, and I love just walking the streets of London and remembering, oh yeah, this was in a Hercule Poirot. I remember this moment. I remember this. I think people feel that way about Brooklyn now, which amazes me. But I'm certainly think we're trying to take advantage of that with Brooklyn Blood. And I think Tim really did a wonderful job of both bringing it to life realistically, but then superimposing this whole supernatural dimension on it without it feeling contradictory.
Yeah. It kind of starts that way where you're talking about how much Brooklyn has changed in the book. And the main character isn't exactly like, yay. It's like, fuck this is some bullshit, And
yeah, I think the Brooklyn in the book is doesn't exist anymore right now because I moved here in '98, and no one wanted to live in the neighborhood I live in. But now, when I mention the neighborhood, which I'm not going to mention, people all are like, they want to come and live in that neighborhood anyway.
Yeah. Well, to stay on that note for a moment, when you were trying to take real Brooklyn as it is now and marry it to a supernatural element, what were the artistic challenges there, if any?
Talk about the ghost train, Tim. I think that was one of the most wonderful additions you brought to the look of the book.
Yeah, that was scary.
Well, I like trains. So I did my research. I don't know what in particular you liked about that scene. Oh, the way I divided it up, or
I think one of the interesting things about the collaborative process in comics. You wrote scripts, and I kind of ignored some of what you wrote, and I laid out the page the way I wanted to lay it out, which is ideal. You start out with a sense of what can kind of skeletally tell the story. Mm-hmm. But when you're working with a talented artist, you kind of hope that periodically they're just going to look at it and say, no, and come back with something else entirely. And there's a sequence in the book where we're in the subway tunnels, basically underneath the edge of the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens in Prospect Park, where one of the great subway disasters of New York, the worst subway disaster New York ever had, took place. And, I write it that, there's ghosts and there's a subway and it goes by and boo. And Tim comes back with this amazing thing.
Well, I learned about that disaster because I was on the subway one day, and this is before I worked on this book. It was maybe 3 years ago, and there was a man on the subway just loudly describing this accident that happened to everybody.
Oh, man.
And giving all the details and how many people died and what time it happened. I don't know if he cared if anybody was listening or what, but he was just loudly describing it.
That's a New York moment.
Yeah.
And that man eventually became the mayor of New York.
Yes.
Talking about Kingpin?
Just to delve into,
politics.
I don't know if this is the same ghost train sequence you're talking about, but there's a very neat layout where one of the characters, to the Lovecraft point, may be going crazy, maybe seeing ghosts. There's another one of the characters who doesn't. And you lay it out so that both of those things are happening simultaneously, almost like windows of the train. Yeah. How did that come about? How did you hit on that graphic idea?
You're asking me about things I drew 2 years ago.
Sorry, we're talking about your book with you.
Let's talk about...
Isn't that where the ghost flew in the window and gave you the idea?
Yeah. Back to politics. No, I'll be honest. I don't remember that particular what you're asking me.
It's very nice.
It's probably
really well done.
Something boring like I remembered seeing that done in a comic book in the past.
Okay.
And I would tell you where I saw it, but I don't remember.
I don't think anybody did that one before, Tim.
I'm sure they have.
Yeah, well, it's great. You guys should definitely pick up the book. I do want to talk about the process a little bit. Like you mentioned, you are better known for superhero comic books, for big bombastic fights, for DC, for overarching epic emotional plots. This has big action sequences in it, and it has big emotional plots. But like you said, it definitely takes you, from a fan perspective, outside of your element. What did that do to you as a writer? How did that affect your writing?
You know, it's always interesting to do tricks you haven't done before. And after you've done literally hundreds of stories in a particular fashion, you know how to press all the buttons, you know how to do the dance, and hopefully you still do it well, but you're not doing it with that sort of childish enthusiasm of, I bet I could climb that jungle gym. Mm-hmm. By moving into fresh territory where I didn't have the tools that structured the way a superhero story did. Okay, so I get in 1 page of a character development, and then I do 3 pages of people blowing things up and do a little bit of emotional language over that, but mostly the things are blowing up, and then I can do another 2 pages of character development. By having to work within the 8-page chapter structure and anchor the whole thing in a fundamental reality, it brought it to ground in a very different way for me, and that made it a different kind of writing challenge that was great fun for me. We'll see if it's great fun for the readers. You seem to have enjoyed it. Got you. Yay. Thank you.
That's what.
Did you have to buy yours?
Nope.
Then it's not. Then it doesn't count as one yet.
Yeah, it doesn't count as one yet.
You know, that's Roman numeral 1. You know, how they number the pages that way. 1 is the first one who buys one.
When we first met to talk about the project, Paul said that when he would write Legion of Superheroes for Keith Giffen, you said that you'd give him a script and he'd take it home and throw it away and just draw what he remembered. It's okay if I tell people that. Right?
Absolutely.
But, so,
and then I'd ignore what Keith had in mind and write yet another story over his pencils.
So you kind of gave me license to be like, yeah, okay, I'll just.
Yeah. Look, it's a collaborative medium, and it's great when you have a single cartoonist who is both a talented writer and a talented artist. That's someone who really should be taken out and killed because they have way too many talents, way too many gifts from heaven.
Yeah.
Are you talking about me or Keith Giffen?
Will Eisner. He's gone. He's gone now. It's safe. But most of us work with some subsection of those talents. Either you can only write like me, or you can write and draw as Tim can, but you're stronger at one on some types of material than another. And when you put people together, collaboration is fun because you start playing Can You Top This? Mm-hmm. And when that works in comics, you get Lee and Kirby, you get Lee and Ditko, you get amazing things happening. And I won't claim we work to that standard, but that's what we were trying for.
Nice. I mean, it's really cool that you're saying, like, hey, you can do what you want, because I'm sure there are some writers that are like, no, what I said is what you should draw.
Yeah, it's not the smartest way to make a comic book.
No, but it's nice to see somebody who is as accomplished as you are still being so open to a collaboration.
Well, it helps when you have really a talented collaborator.
Sure.
I'm not sure you cheerfully get in the car and say, would you like to drive, if the person has about 1 hour of experience and has 4 drinks in them.
Yeah.
But when you've got somebody with real talent, sure, take the wheel for a stretch. That's fine.
Yeah, and I don't remember all the parts that we collaborated or disagreed or... I mean, I remember one little spot where you did something and I visually said, maybe she should pick up this knife and take it with her.
Yeah, I remember that.
But
also, I remember
it's all a blur to me to what.
Well, that's all
what
the drinking.
happened.
You had at
That's all
least
the
4
drinking.
drinks each time.
I think a lot of the choreography of the ending came from some of the things you were thinking about, Tim, because I remember it was originally structured for 15 chapters rather than 16. And around the time we got to about chapter 13 and we started talking about the ending, I remember you throwing out some suggestions. I don't remember what they are anymore because really it blends in the process. But it was sort of, oh, yeah, we could go off 30 degrees from where I had intended and it would be a better story.
Another chapter and a little more money.
Well, yeah, that too. I didn't know that was your motivation, but I can respect that.
What about the different release formats? Does it affect, do you think, the story at all, releasing it 8 pages at a time once a month versus putting it in the trade form?
I think for the story like this, it's hard to read a mystery story serialized over a year and a half. Mm-hmm. But I think that's if we did our job right, it's invisible in the trade. I mean, 120,000 people roughly read Watchmen as 12 serialized issues. 1.5 million, maybe 2 million people read Watchmen as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And the same thing's true of Dickens when you go back to all of his great novels, or many of the Sherlock Holmes novels were originally serialized, or lots of science fiction novels when I was growing up. Dune, I remember being serialized in analog when I was a kid. Dune's not a serial, it's a novel. And if we did our job right, this is a novel, and people will experience it in its entirety and enjoy it that way.
And I guess Watchmen is going to be a TV show and serialized again.
Apparently.
So.
Well, what do you think about that? I mean, not to take a sidetrack, but while we're on it,
If you want to talk about stuff like that.
It's their turn. I had one of the great jobs on the planet, running DC Comics, either as one of the key members of the team or as the president of the company for the last batch of years. There's no job on the planet that I would remotely be competent to do that I could have enjoyed more than that. And I made an army of decisions. I'm proud of an awful lot of them. There's a few where sort of, okay, I wish I'd done better that day. You have a batting average in all of those things. Mm-hmm. When I got up from the desk, I said, a lot of the guys who were taking over the responsibilities were people who were friends of mine or people that I'd hired. And I said, look, just don't do things because 6 years ago I said, do it this way, or don't ever do this. Re-examine the stuff, figure out what you think the right ways to do things are, and proceed.
Impressive.
I don't expect to agree with every decision they make. Really doesn't matter whether I do or not, obviously. It's their turn. I wish them well. A lot of stuff they're doing seems to be working very well commercially. They've done some incredible things with television that we were not able to do on my watch. The number of programs they've been able to launch in that. And I just, God bless them. I hope it all works and hope it all keeps entertaining people.
Nice.
To get back to Brooklyn Blood for a second, so this is coming out again July 18th at just the comic book stores and then regular bookstores end of the month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool. What else is coming up for you guys that you want to plug? You have another book that you're working on, right, Tim?
My self-published book, Rabbit Who Fights. That's the only comic book I'm working on right now. I also do children's books, which no one here wants to talk about.
I have kids. I want to talk about them.
Tell us about your
Let's
children's books, Tim. Please tell us.
No, we can talk about geeky stuff. I'm fine with that.
I have a new grandson. I have to figure out what children's books to get him.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Oh, man. You do not want to plug your stuff, sure. What's the idea of Rabbit Who Fights?
What is the idea behind it?
Yeah.
It's my own anthology. It has a lead story that is connected but not continued that people can read that is science fiction. I don't have an elevator pitch for that, but the rest of it is like humorous cartoons.
The elevator pitch is, it's great.
Yep.
From one of our folks heading to San Diego Comic-Con, but not our zoo expert.
Yeah. Not the zoo expert thinks it's great.
And
Our zoo expert is
also thinking it's great.
Also a comic book expert. There we go. All right, all working out. Paul, anything else we should be checking out from you?
This month you can find the story I did with Neil Adams for celebrating Superman's 80th anniversary in the Action 1000 Deluxe hardcover. It's coming out from DC with a lot of interesting reprint material. I have another mini-series that I'm working on with Simon Fraser for Dark Horse that we haven't yet announced, so I can't tell you what it is. But stay tuned. Yeah,
Audience says it's good.
Audience says it's good.
They haven't steered us wrong so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little prejudiced. That's the ringer section. But doing a lot of teaching. If you're attending school in the New York area, this fall I'll be teaching writing the graphic novel at Pace University.
Nice.
I teach Pace's Masters in Publishing program, and up at Manhattanville I teach writing for the media. And we're going to run a cool event at Pace this fall, right before New York Comic Con. Those who can teach. Pulling together 4 or 5 of the really brilliant comic book people who also do a lot of teaching, and talking about the kind of conjunction between teaching and being a working creator. And you do a chunk of teaching too, Mr. Hamilton.
I was going to say I taught at SVA this summer, but the class is over and you've all missed it.
It's our bad.
Perfect.
I just wanted to have something else to say.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Are you going to be teaching there again?
They seem to tell me every year if I'm going to be teaching it again. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So it's not okay.
We got to work with you on plugging your stuff. All right, guys. We're going to move on to our next section, which is my favorite section because you guys make it up. It's your audience questions. Hooray! And for that, I'm going to come out to you guys. You can ask a question about anything, something for our lovely guests, something for everybody, and you're going to get a pile of free comics courtesy of Pete LePage. You, sir, I saw your hand shoot up first. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Kevin, and this is open for everybody. You were talking about, the challenges that you were, relishing with this book. A genre you hadn't worked in, or the 8-page, limit, and how you were able to incorporate that. What are some other challenges you would just really like to take on? Some genres you haven't worked in, or even a medium. It doesn't even have to be comics.
I've loved fantasy prose my whole life. Everything from Lord of the Rings to Earthsea to McCaffrey's Dragons. I have shelf after shelf of all of that. And I've toyed with trying to do that kind of prose. Kind of been scared. The way you have to do it today really is to write the whole novel, and then your agent will see if they can trick someone into publishing it. And I'm used to somebody like Mike Richardson showing up and saying, "What would you like to do? And we'll publish whatever it is, and we'll give you money."
Wow.
Which is a much pleasanter way to work.
Seems like it is, yeah.
Much less scary. So I'm kind of at this point of being scared of some of the next things. We'll see. I would like very much to do a sequel to Brooklyn Blood if I could convince this guy to, take another year out of his life.
I'm busy trying to write my novel, too.
But this would be fun.
Keep up on your dreams for Paul's dreams.
Yeah. What about Paul's dreams?
But if you all buy 50 copies of Brooklyn Blood each, then it'll make so much money that Tim's wife will turn around to him and just say, "You got to do another one of those."
Yeah.
And I'll get my dream. So could you please go out and buy about 50 each? That's not that much money. Please.
So you want me to answer that question also?
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
please.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't kidding. I've written some children's books, and also would think it would be nice to challenge myself with writing something that is in prose. I've written some prose that you will never see, that's been in print in college, like what do you call those books that the colleges publish?
Literary magazines?
Yeah, literary magazines and newspapers. I published a story in a college newspaper when I was taking writing courses, and that paper got all sorts of protests and angry letters thanks to my story.
Excellent.
Congrats. Yeah, what was that about?
What was it about?
Yeah, you kind of steered us down this path. You got to deliver now.
It was it was semi true story about a friend of mine, and it involved heroin. Oh, I can talk about anything on here, right?
Yeah, swear whatever you want, man. Get crazy.
It's not swearing; it's just disturbing.
Let's get disturbing then.
It's someone I knew had a drug problem and was injecting heroin into their genitals, and so the newspaper seemed to be very upset that I did a story about this.
Wow.
Anyway, so I don't mean to bring the party down, but that was
all right. Some people, it's bringing the party up. Depends on who you talk to.
Anyway, beyond that,
where'd you go to school?
What's the address? What
way
was your
upstate
address
New York.
Way upstate?
I don't want to mention the school.
Syracuse? Was it Syracuse?
No.
Binghamton.
How'd you know it was Ithaca where I did this? I didn't go to school there.
Wait, it was Ithaca?
I went to Ithaca. I wanted to say Ithaca first, but
No,
I
you
said
went to Ithaca. I went to
Do you know my
Cornell,
friend?
So.
yeah, I do know that guy.
Okay. Beyond that,
Sorry, spoiler alert. Pete was the friend.
beyond that, I would probably go into farming, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. Pete, anything you'd like to tackle?
Guys, get heroin in Ithaca. It's really good. It's really, they make great heroin.
That's just a thing you wanted to say.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm the challenge. I'm going to challenge myself to continue to do a show with you and Justin. It's an uphill battle, but every year it's like new. You know?
Great.
How about you? What are you challenging yourself?
Me too, man.
Yeah.
Me too. It always feels new. Great question. Let's get another question
Well, we're
from the
sorry
audience.
we don't have any time for more questions.
You, sir, can you come down
Oh,
a
no.
little bit just because the mic is... What's your name? What's your question?
My name is George. I'm going to be the total geek, and I'm just going to say for everybody, and even you, Tim, you have to answer this.
All right.
Who is your favorite member of the Legion of Superheroes?
Ooh.
Oh, boy.
I'll just go really quick first because I think, is Phantom Girl a member?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one. That's the only one I can remember. Poor Paul and me. I just have to say we're from different worlds. When I was young, I was one of those kids who only read Marvel comics. So, but I will say the honest truth is that when I saw covers of the Great Darkness saga, that was the only book that I was like, maybe I'll try an issue of that.
Cool.
But it was so dense, I was like, I don't know what's going on in this book. I can't read this.
I'm crushed. I can give you the footnoted edition.
Okay.
We'll work
All
on
right.
that. Yeah. So for me, it was whoever's life I was fucking with, because the real fun of doing the Legion of Superheroes is you had so many characters. You know, if you're writing Superman, he's a wonderful character, but Lois Lane is not going to be dead. Superman is not really going to be dead. Maybe they'll get married and have a kid in the story, but you know that'll be reversed in another year or two anyway, in some fashion or another. Or they'll do an alternate version. When you're doing a book like Legion, you can kill somebody. You can have characters have affairs. You can have characters discover different dimensions to their sexuality. Lose their powers, lose their minds. And my favorite at a time tended to be whoever's life I was making the most miserable, because, you know, you're God and you can. And
wow.
Kind of nice.
You just said that out loud, bro.
You know, it's really a good explanation for the fundamentals of our world, because this is a really complicated world to have happened by accident. So you sort of look at life on Earth and you say, yeah, maybe there's an argument for somebody having started all of this. On the other hand, if somebody did this, they've either gone off on vacation afterwards or they have the nastiest sense of humor imaginable. And as a writer, I kind of lean to the nastiest sense of humor because that's what I had as a writer in the worlds that I created.
Wow.
Pete, you got one?
Brainiac.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Wait, is Timberwolf? Is
Yes.
he?
Yeah.
He's my favorite. I changed my mind.
Nice.
Excellent. Great question. Let's get another one. You'll get some free comics. Could be anything. Life advice if you want. You, sir, come on down. It doesn't have to be life advice. Comics questions are probably
Don't do
better.
heroin.
Yeah.
I never
not in
took
your
drugs,
genitals.
so it's okay by me. As far as Legion of Superheroes, what is the worst Legionnaire you ever had to write, Paul?
Oh, that was for Paul, not me and Pete. No, I know. I'm kidding.
That's a great question. I think of the ones that I worked with through the time, maybe Matter Eater Lad. I didn't realize the in-joke that he came from the planet Bismol for years and years and years. But just structured in a story sense, I mean, it's a pretty illogical power to start with. But when you try and get an action scene where the character has to get close enough to whatever the thing is that's going on in the fight to chomp his teeth into it and defeat it bite by bite. I don't know about you guys, but I only bite a certain amount of food in one bite. I can't bite a whole steel door, even if you give me the power to bite steel. I'm just gonna maybe bite off the door handle, and that might take 2 or 3 bites to do. It's a pretty dopey power to work with.
I'm just watching Paul talk about biting. But
No,
I
go ahead.
didn't write the Legion, so I don't have any.
Oh.
I enjoyed reading when Wolverine stole Timberwolf's costume. That's what I remember.
All right, there we go. I think we could
X-Men
take.
issue 107.
I think we could take one more question from the audience. You right up there, come all the way down, please, and I will hand you the microphone. And your name is.
Name's Hugo. So if you were to do a sequel to Brooklyn Blood, would you move to other boroughs or different parts of the country? What would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Any of the above. I mean, there's a lot of Brooklyn left.
Queen's Blood doesn't sound as good.
No, Queasy in Queens, maybe. I've spent a lot of my life in Greenwich Village also, so, violence in the village, maybe. But I think sticking within Brooklyn, the Coney Island area has tremendous potential for a story.
Oh, yeah, it does.
You have so much wonderful, strange shit that goes on there between the Mermaid Parade, the boardwalk, the Cyclones pretend baseball team.
Hey.
I keep meaning the aquarium supposedly has a whole new shark thing that has some wonderful moments to be drawn, and get eaten by the sharks and stuff. That could be fun, Tim.
Yeah.
It's a nice bicycle trip to go there along Ocean Parkway.
Some people buy their heroin out there.
There's probably a certain amount of that there.
Sorry, it's my only joke.
The direct market for comics started out there pretty much. Phil Suling was living out there in Seagate when he began the direct distribution. So you could mix it with some comic book history too, maybe. Some interesting possibilities.
I like how excited you're getting about it. That's
Well, I'm trying to talk this man into doing,
he's trying to talk
doing
me
this
into it.
thing.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm fairly desperate here.
What do you guys think? Should Tim do Brooklyn Blood 2? There we go. That's enough. Just to mention, we have
50
the
copies
theater.
each. That's
Yeah.
all you have to do. If we get about 1,000 of you at 50 each, I guarantee you Tim will want to do another volume.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. We did it. We're making changes with the show, you guys.
We did it.
And that's it for your audience questions.
Thank you,
Guys,
audience.
we're going to move on to our next section, which is trivia. And for that, we're going to turn it over to Peter LePage.
All right. This is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free in the form of a gift card to Midtown Comics. Because if you had $25, you go to a comic book shop, right? Who would like $25 free? A simple raising of the hand. You've wanted a bunch. I'm going to go with her. Why don't you come on down? Woo! Yeah, clap for the nice lady.
All right. Round of applause. Come over here, please. Here's your mic.
What is your name?
Stella.
Stella, audience Stella. All right. Oh, come on, guys. You're better than that. You're better than that. Oh, wow. They're not better than that. Okay, so today's trivia is on Brooklyn Blood. So I'm sure you've read all of it, even though it hasn't come out yet. In its collected form. So how's it going to work? I'm going to read you a question, listen to all three possible answers, get all three questions right, $25 yours, which I'm going to have to give you an IOU because forgot to swing by Midtown. My bad. Okay, here we go. Question number one. The detective in the graphic novel Brooklyn Blood that we've been talking about must face demons, monsters, and blank to solve this case. Is it A, his past, B, his upstairs neighbor, or is it C, Captain Caveman? So is it A, if you would like $25 eventually, or is it B or C?
I think it's A.
A is correct. Nice job.
Yay.
Not bad for not reading it. Where is the detective just getting back from? Is it A, vacation, B, Afghanistan, or is it C, bedrock? So it's either A, vacation, or it's B, Afghanistan, which would make sense.
B.
Yes, that is correct. Nice job. All right, here we go. Last one. Don't get cocky. Here we go. Who is on the loose and must be brought to justice? Is it A, a serial killer, B, a kidnapper, or is it C, grape ape? So it's either A, a serial killer, because it's about a detective, if you remember, or it's B, a kidnapper. Don't pick B. And it's definitely not grape ape. That would make a weird comic. So it's either A, if you would like $25, or you can pick B or C.
I'm going to pick A.
A is correct. $25 free. Congratulations, Stella. You will either you or Hugo will come back next week and get you the $25. I apologize.
Oh man!
I am
also, I liked your
person.
implication that nobody investigates kidnappings.
Well, that's true. No
detectives.
Too many kids on milk cartons, man. Somebody's got to step up their freaking detective work.
I think it's you. I think that's your pitch for a TV show.
Yeah, I get a van. And I just start.
No.
Oh,
That's the
probably van's a bad idea.
You went wrong.
I'll get a truck.
Mildly better.
We can make that the next volume, Canarsie Kidnapping.
Okay, all right. There
Nice. You got your villain already, so there you go. Guys,
Actually, it's pretty much a mercy to get kidnapped out of Canarsie anyway.
Oh, man.
As we all know, tomorrow is New Comic Book Day. We recommend you go to Midtown Comics because they've been nice enough to sponsor the show. Pete, what are you looking forward to?
Oh, man, a lot of great stuff. I'm going to say a Daredevil number 605 I'm looking forward to.
What's going on in that?
Well, Daredevil was briefly the mayor, and now the Kingpin is back being the mayor, which is very sad for New York. I'm excited to see how this is going to unfold. It's been Charles Soule's writing the crap out of this book, and I've been loving every issue.
It's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to Flash number 50 from DC Comics. This is finalizing the Flash War storyline. I'm a big Flash fan. You got to see... Yes, Pete.
Doesn't it seem like there's too many Flashes going on in that book?
It does not. More Flashes, please.
Oh, man. I think you're going to get your wish.
I think so, because there's already Barry Allen fighting Wally West and also Zoom, who's now in a Flash costume. It's a lot of fun.
That seems confusing.
It's not.
Okay.
If you're a Flash fan, Pete, which I am, so there you go. Definitely pick it up.
You're not going to ask us about the Flash, are you?
What?
Are you going to ask us about the Flash?
Yeah. Do you like the Flash? No, I'm not going to ask you about the Flash. Instead, plug your stuff again. What should people be checking out?
Oh, Brooklyn Blood and Rabbit Who Fights, which you have to get that on my Gumroad site. I don't know the address offhand, but you'll...
God! Tim!
If you Google,
were you aware you were going to be on the show?
We're
today?
going to go long talk about marketing when this is over, Tim.
if you Google my name and Gumroad, you'll find me.
Okay.
But don't just Google my name because I'm also there's an adult film star that has my name.
Congratulations.
So never Google my name by itself.
Is that what you're doing, that you're too busy to do Brooklyn Blood?
Right.
It's a lot of money.
We did ask you about other genres.
He's much
so
better looking than I am, so
That seems impossible.
Yeah.
he's very buff.
Paul, Steph, you want to plug?
I'm still working with the heroin and the genitals and the adult film star, and there's a story coming together here, but I think it's a little scary.
Amazing.
Brooklyn Blood, 50 copies each, please. And we have a little Superman story by me and Neil Adams in Action Comics 1000 Deluxe Edition coming out this month.
Cool.
We're not doing another Dr.
And there's
Fate?
probably about another 20 different graphic novels of my stuff that you can buy or that you can order as individual. Hundreds of stories you can order individually off Comixology.
Nice.
Yeah, just
Would you-
Google his
would-
name. Go to Google.
Are you going to do another Dr. Fate, or was that just a
We
something you did because?
I got through 18 issues of it, which made three trade paperbacks. That's all they've been willing to do so far. I'd love to do some more with Sonny at some point. All my artists run off and do other stuff. I don't understand. Are they all? I don't know whether they hate me when they're finished working with me, or just
or it's all that biting you talk about.
it might be. You know, I used to chew pencils, so maybe I'm chewing the artist's pencils too much. It could be a problem.
Oh, man. Well, check all of that stuff out, please. A couple of things before we go. Next week on the show, we have two great guests. Sean Harris, the writer of IDW's Las Vegas Repo, is going to be here. Also, returning guest Fred Van Lente is going to be talking about his new novel, The Con Artist, which is a super fun mystery involving the comic book industry set at San Diego Comic-Con, so that'll be nicely timed for next week. You guys should definitely pick it up before you head out there. It's a good read between zoo trips, probably.
Yeah.
Also, we do a bunch more podcasts that you guys
Too
can check
many,
out.
some would say.
Too many. Right now, we're running a Cloak and Dagger podcast called Cloak and Jabber that you can check out on iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher, a bunch of other places. Also, we have a Preacher podcast called Preacher Men that's running right now. And what else? A bunch of other ones that you can check out on the website, comicbookclublive.com.
That's right.
Yeah, we should mention this show is free to come see and free to listen to, but it does cost us a little bit of money to do. So if you're here in the theater and wouldn't mind throwing a couple of bucks in the literal hat over there, that would be appreciated. Or if you're listening at home, patreon.com/comicbookclub. We have a bunch of fun rewards for you guys. We have access to our entire back archives. We do private YouTube videos, which sounds really dirty, but it's not. And a bunch of other stuff for you guys. Our swag, we send you guys free comics and things like that, so definitely check that out. Pete, what else do you want to plug?
Friend us on Facebook so you get to know about the amazing guests we have on our live show.
Follow us on Twitter at Comic Book Live. Also, as mentioned, check out comicbookclublive.com for the podcast more. A couple of people we want to thank before we go. We want to thank Paul and Tim for being on the show. Boothman Prime. But most of all, we want to thank you guys. We're every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., totally free. Please tell your friends. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening at home.
Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Come on. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Nerds Day Club. Join Alex, Justin, and Tim every Tuesday night. Once a week. That blow your mind with their comics and sales. And extended, already extended adolescence. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. Comic Book Club. They sit on crappy couches and they let the secrets leak. And occasionally they